Escaping Wonderland is a standalone sequel to a game called Down the Rabbit Hole that we created a couple of years ago. And it was one of those passion projects, I believe, that the team was so committed to follow up on. And when it comes to game devs, you tend to for the big bangers. But at this point, we got a break from our publisher that gave us the opportunity to pursue the sequel to Down the Rabbit Hole. And well, it became a pretty good, neat little game, I believe. I wasn't at the studio at the point where they choose to pursue Down the Rabbit Hole, but first of all, we have like the official version, and then you have obviously the dev version. And at the point they needed a game to do, and they also had this beautiful diorama mechanic, which they didn't really know what to do with. And they started to look at public domain and obviously successful IPs, and Alice in Wonderland was free and the perfect fit for the diorama experience. Plus the amount the beautiful story in Alice and all the lovely creatures that you have that in there. It's such a it's such a nice and thankful environment to join. So it's just one of those things that just puzzle its place for the team, and they started to pursuing that one. Of that, a lot of, I think the founder of the studio, his name is Ricky. He did not want to do a shooter because we all came from DICE in the beginning. We're doing shoot and AAA shooters, and at that point, that was something that, okay, what can we do that really fits into this diorama mechanic which they created, and it's still interesting. So they landed on a puzzle game, and then they, explored the IP, Alice in Wonderland, and a beautiful story when it comes to that. So the devs sat down and looked how they could frame a story in this Wonderland that sort of was tailoring into the Alice experience of falling down into a rabbit hole. And then I would say that this probably the lack of the first game, or not the lack, but the sort of the thin side of the game was the narrative and the story. The first game was about a grandfather reading a bedtime story to their kid or grandchild. And as she falls into sleep, she experiences what Wonderland is and all the magic creatures down there. And that's sort of when we created Escaping Wonderland, was something we wanted to explore and move further on, both on the narrative side, but also on what is Wonderland, what's down there when you land in there. Is there a place that you will join if you are potentially unconscious and asleep, or sedated, or in any other state? So what is that sort of the red thread we can have between the games? And I do believe that developing these two games is we focus on that instead of having a cohesive story between the two. So this is basically a story which we can frame anything, and it comes out of your dreams and being in that world. In the first game, it took about a year. I think it was 14 or 15 months. I think for the second one, it was a bit longer. I think it was 1.5 years, so 18 months. But yeah, it was a very smooth process because it was the same core team. So the core team was there from the beginning. They knew sort of, okay, what they wanted to explore from the first game, like I said, but they also we had sort of the artistic style of the game and wanted to keep that. And it is a bit sort of, it's a bit special the way we worked on the first game and the way we created it, because at the time the studio didn't have that many 3D artists, but it had a lot of 2D artists. So they basically hand painted every environment, and that's why if you look upon the diorama, it's somewhat like a theater scene. It's layered, but it's like, so it's very much painted, and it's just being divided by each other just to get a bit of perspective in there. So it has this very unique art style that we wanted to continue in and just have as a something that really is something that you can identify the IP with as well. So, but I must say it was one of the most gratifying projects I've worked in, both due to the team just committing 100% on this, and I'm a producer sitting on top, but being a part of that creative process was wonderful with this team, I would say, because everybody saw the same vision from the start, and even though there were bumps in the road here as well, the team really came through in a sense, I would say, and really, yeah. And so I used to work in, I did TV series and as a cinematographer. So I was I was a creative myself way back in the days. And then I moved into the movie industry, oh sorry, the gaming industry like 8 years ago, starting out at DICE as a cinematic director. And then I continued that process in with Ubisoft and at Starbreeze and started producing there, and then sort of came into um, the VR world 3 years ago. So I've been a part of quite a few processes. And it's one of the things that you almost can taste on your tongue when you get something good going. And that's what I was trying to tell the team, that when we saw the pieces and puzzle trying to come together, because you only really see it in the last sort of period of development, because you're creating so much stuff during sort of the same time. So when you have all these milestones like alpha and beta, and you try to hit this, and it's always very stressful when trying to hit them. And when you see the game at the state, because at alpha it's like playable from start to finish, but it's not fun at all. It's just, it lacks that. But once you go to beta, stuff starts to trickle down and the visual starts to pop on you. And then, once polish comes in and audio and sound and music hits the mark, and you really like starting to, then you just, you get this sort of, what do you call it? The neck hair starts to rise and you feel, okay, we get something going here. And I think that's at the end of the process. I really tried to tell the team, because it is a sensation that you've been quite good in sort of identifying the older you get. Like, okay, wait, I recognize this one. Oh, this was from this, and yeah, okay, so it's gonna be a great game. But a great game doesn't always is not always the same thing as a hit. A hit is a game that sells a lot of copies, and that's probably something that in VR it's tough to get that sort of runaway success, but it is on a slow burn and it's doing great. But it's always something that's, it's sad to see that the shooter is up there. And as long as we can get more people to sort of exploring the narrative side of this potential story, I would love to see. We are a VR studio, so we really believe in the medium. And that it was at some point it will be it will be a successful medium. I reckon it is a successful medium, but it's not that successful that we sort of would love it to be. So I think starting there, it was like, okay, we create VR games in our studio, and we're going to try and make the best sort of experiences we can. So for us, it was not really choosing flat screen or VR at the point. It was more of us being a VR studio and trying to sort of explore the most out of that headset and hardware that we can. But having said that, there might be, I'm not saying it's impossible that we might see, for example, down the rabbit hole landing somewhere on a flat screen soon. But more than that, I can't say. But keep your eyes open, because stuff might happen on that. So everybody can have a look at that game. But one thing I would like to say though is that the game really created for VR in the sense that you really feel immersed when you're down there. So it is one of those things that just being down in the world and potentially not, having being tasked all the time from a quest giver, but just exploring and enjoying it's really sort of gratifying in VR in that sense. And I think that is something that is a USB to the VR headset. But it's tough. VR is a tough medium, I would say, because people get nauseous. People tend to not want to shut out reality. So it is a bit of a challenge. But I think, I mean, people Wonderland and Down the Rabbit Hole really tailors into a beautiful world that actually excels in VR. We love Jason, and I mean he is absolutely one of the most lovely and most talented voice actors out there, and we were so proud that he wanted to commit to the game. But it was also one thing that was really beautiful, both about Joe Godet and Jason Anthony, that are sort of two main cast, except for Tessa Netting, who's the lead cast. Both of them experienced loss in the family, and since our game has a deeper layer of a pretty heavy narrative that we potentially not showcase in the beginning, but it sort of zippers through in the end. They really took to that story and really wanted to commit to the game. So their contribution, both Joe and Jason, the way that they promoted the game and how they leaned into it and how they excelled what the game was to what it became by their acting and by their versatility and now their promotion is absolutely fantastic. So we owe these guys so much and we love to work with them. I mean, but I think, having their personal experience put in the game really made it so strong. I remember the first time we talked about the story with Jason and how we wanted to explore the characters and what we tried to do. Was it possible for us to make a player cry in the end or make a player that committed to the game without scaring him away in the beginning of a heavy topic? Is that possible? Well, yeah, we tried to, but then we tried to tell and talked about how we wanted to do that. And I just remember Jason getting tears in his eyes when he was talking about a family member that he was suffering from mental illness. And it was such a strong moment for both of us. And then we really felt like we clicked. And from that on, it was pretty much smooth sailing. I lost a family member that committed suicide under depression. And when we started to talk within the team of this, because it was a bit of a controversy within the team as well in the beginning. So what should we do with this? We know we had a baseline of, instead of down the rabbit hole, as the first game was called, we wanted Escaping Wonderland to be about going up the hole, so climbing out of something. And what could that potentially be? So we started to brainstorm about that, and the topic of mental health came in. Can we make actually a game about something that is so important without losing the seriousness of the subject? Is it possible for us to sort of have the double layer narrative with the sort of whimsical feeling of the first game, but still being able to take a stab at a heavier topic? And that was a thin line to walk, and it was very scary for us to do it. But I think once we got everybody on board on it, it became such an important project for all of us just to push through on. But we really made our research on this because it is a hot potato to handle. I mean, you must get it right, and if you don't get it right, you will be hanged for it. So it's so important for so many people. But I think we drew from our experiences. We brought in a lot of experts that we talk with when it comes to the story and the sort of underlying layer of it. So we got that right in the end of Molly's story and how can that play in. So it took bits and pieces of everybody in the game and their experiences in order to fulfill the narrative. So there's a lot of parts that are in there that I would say speaks to me, but I would say not one thing, but it's mainly the art, because there's so much stuff when it comes to mental illness that you recognize, even though you're not suffering from a physical symptom of it. But it's really something that I believe at this point, and in the world that we're living in, there's so much spinning so fast at the moment that people are not feeling well. There's so many people feeling bad at the moment. There's something we can do on that topic. I think it's really, really good. But it's, like I said, still needs to be a fun game, and that's the sort of the double-edged sword, right? And how do you do that, not to shy away? So we looked into Pixar, Inside Out, which also took a stab at a very heavy subject and looked at, okay, how can we make it fun? Let's try and make this. And that was, throwing yourself out there on a limb. But I do believe we came up with it. Oh, it's up to you to decide, because I'm a part of the creating. But I believe that we came up in the end, and I do. And from all the positive feedback we got from the game, I do believe we succeeded on that. Now we released it now in September, so yeah, we really hope that it picks up, but it's mainly to persons like you and people that are slowly discovering this and feeling that the subject has a matter. So I think we're really grateful for these interviews and being able to talk about the game and what it potentially could help. Because Jason posted a video of a person who really, was very touched by the game he's been playing and just wanted to post it. I don't know if you saw it, but it was one of those things as a creator that sometimes a little like suddenly it feels like, oh, all the heavy burden of potentially not recouping in the amount of months that you saw yourself being profitable on the game, or you just flew out the window because it was about something else. We were helping this person with our little game. We helped the person feel better and potentially could get another view of the world. And sometimes and suddenly it just felt so, that this is what it should be about, in a perfect world, that, creating these kind of small games that potentially can make a tiny shift. First of all, we needed someone to build a story from. If you're building from yourself as the sort of the character and telling that you experienced this, it's always tough to relate. If you can sort of project a story on someone else, like Molly in this example, when she, um, uh, I'm sorry, my mind went blank as well. So it's always, if you have someone to project the story on, it's always much stronger than having the story projected on yourself in VR, because it always will land in a voice speaking to you. Do this. You're feeling this at this moment, and it sort of it shies away from a lot of the emotions that you get from a third person character. So that's where we basically want to land with sort of, okay, we need a story to project and we want the player to feel something for this person, and they should want to help her instead of you want to try and help yourself, because that sort of did the discrepancy here. So it was one of those tricks just to get the player to feel. Then we can give her a backstory, we can give her antagonists, we can give her, the narrator who helps her in certain sense. So we can give her the comic relief to bounce humor off on and off, and that. So it is that was sort of the reason for choosing to go with a third person player character that was not yourself. No, I mean it has so much potential. This magic on the world that you can continue exploring. We have a lot of um, great ideas on that note, how we potentially take it further. But we first need we are in the business of making money at the end of the day. So we need to see if it's really profitable in the end, if this is the kind of game that the audience in VR is hoping for. Let's hope they are, but because we would love to do it, because we are really, like I said, it's a passion project for the studio, and we have such a committed team that love working with this IP and love exploring it further, and we have so much more to take it further on. And on your question on, is there anything you wish you could put in the that you sort of regret of not putting in there? Yeah, I mean, thousands and millions of stuff. That like cool. You kill your darlings all the time in video games, right? And it's so much stuff that you just wish that you had the time to do and polish and tweak and because, and I'm not going to say them now because everybody's going to look at them and say, "Hey, what the fuck?" but going forward, it's I would say the thing that I would really focus on is, because what we did now was create puzzle mechanics and then put a story layer on top. I would like to take it to merge these two, to really get it down when it comes to puzzle mechanics and really nail that type of feature into the narrative as well. So you basically have a meaning for everything you do in the game, and that's sort of. But it's utopia. You'll never get the time to do that. Play it to the end, even if you don't like it. Play it to the end, because we very much like any narrative story. If you quit halfway, it's like turning off a movie halfway. You always you do that when it's a crappy movie. So if you think it's a crappy game, yeah, you might be. But I believe the game's getting better as you move along, because the narrative gets stronger. We improve the puzzles as you progress as well to more interesting puzzles. So, but if you take it to the end, I really believe it will be rewarding. So if you buy this game, I would encourage you at least to try and play it to the end, because it's not very long. And take the time and invest all the way, because I really